You may not call it hypervigilance. You may call it overthinking. You may call it being careful, being prepared, being emotionally intelligent, being mature, being strong, being independent, having standards, not being naive anymore. But what if what you call being careful is actually you living in defense? What if you're not just thinking deeply? What if you are scanning constantly? Scanning people, scanning tone, scanning risk, scanning rejection, scanning disappointment, scanning what might go wrong before anything has even gone wrong. And because this has become so normal, you may not even realize how unnatural it is. You may look completely fine from the outside. You go to work, you reply, you perform, you show up, you handle things, you keep moving, but inside, you're not resting. Your body is here, but some part of you is always elsewhere. A little ahead, a little guarded, a little prepared, a little tense, a little defended. Your shoulders are tight, your jaw is tight, your sleep is not deep, your mind is always active, your nervous system is always thinking, what do I need to be ready for? That is what survival based living starts to feel like. And the painful part is you can live like this for years and think this is just who you are. You start saying this is just my nature, or I'm just intense, Well, I can't switch off. I notice everything. I don't trust you easily. I like to stay prepared. I always think ahead. But hey, sometimes that is not your personality. Sometimes that is your adaptation. Sometimes that is what happened to you when your system learned that relaxing was not always safe. Because hypervigilance does not always come from one dramatic event. Sometimes it comes from being around unpredictability for too long. From growing up in an atmosphere where you had to read the room, where moods changed suddenly, where criticism came easily, where love felt conditional, where you had to monitor tone, where you learned to stay careful, where your body understood before your mind did that it is not safer to fully relax here. And even if you are no longer in that environment, your system may still be living as if you are. That is why you can be in a safe room and still feel on edge. Why someone can love you and you still prepare for disappointment. Why you can finish work and still not feel at ease. Why silence does not feel peaceful to you. Why rest sometimes feels uncomfortable, guilty, or even unsafe. Because when you have lived in survival for too long, peace does not immediately feel like peace. It can feel unfamiliar. And what is deeply heartbreaking is that this state is often praised today. Your hypervigilance can get rewarded. People may call you disciplined, driven, perceptive, ambitious, responsible, high functioning, and yes, maybe you are all those things. But underneath that, you may also be tired. Not ordinary tired, deep tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying invisible defense all day. The kind of tired that comes from never fully putting your guard down. The kind of tired that comes from living as though life is always about to demand something from you. And when you look at this from the lens of the three gunas, it becomes very clear. Sometimes the survival state becomes the inertia in you. You shut down, you withdraw, you feel heavy, you avoid, you go numb, you stop trying because your system is exhausted. This is what happens when the burden of vigilance becomes too much. You do not fight anymore, you collapse inward. Sometimes it becomes another mode in you, the form that most people are living today. You become restless, hyperactive inside, always doing, always thinking, always fixing, always preparing, pushing, staying ahead, and just always trying to control what you feel before it overwhelms you. You may look productive, you may look powerful, but inside you are not free. You are moving because stopping feels dangerous. You are staying busy because stillness might bring up what you have been outrunning. You are staying sharp because softening feels too exposed. And then there is the mode of goodness. And that is not laziness. It is not passivity, no. It is not withdrawal from life. It is when you can finally be present without being defensive, when you can observe without scanning, when you can discern without suspecting, when you can rest without collapsing and act without agitation, when peace does not feel foreign to your body. That is what so many people are missing today. Not success, not stimulation, not options, but peace. Simple inner peace. And you can see hypervigilance everywhere once you recognize it. You can see it in relationships. You may not simply like someone, you monitor them. You notice how long they took to reply, you read into one dry text. You sense a change in the tone, and your whole body reacts. You tell yourself you are just observant, but inside you are preparing. Preparing to be misunderstood, to be rejected, to be disappointed, to leave before being left. So even when love comes near you, you do not fully receive it because a part of you is still standing guard. You can see it in work. You may look responsible, but inside you're driven by pressure. You over-prepare, you overthink, overwork. You struggle to rest after finishing something because the system has forgotten how to come down. You may tell yourself you're ambitious, but sometimes what is driving you is not inspiration, it is fear. Fear of falling behind, fear of not being enough, fear of losing control, or fear of being seen as inadequate if you are not constantly producing. So your worth gets tied to effort, and peace starts to feel undeserved. You can also see it in family patterns. Even as an adult, one call, one tone, one message, one expectation can activate something old in you. Not because you're childish, not because you're weak, but because your body remembers. It remembers what it was like to stay careful, to manage atmospheres, to anticipate reactions, to reduce yourself, to stay emotionally prepared. And the thing is, many people still call this, well, that's just how family is, without realizing how much of their nervous system is still organized around old defense. And you can absolutely see it in social media. The constant checking, the comparison, subtle insecurity, the emotional overstimulation, the sense that you are always being measured, seen, interpreted, left behind, or not enough. Your mind does not get to settle, it keeps consuming signals, and a mind that is already hypervigilant becomes even more fragmented there. So, what happens after years of this? You forget what ease feels like. You forget what it feels like to sit in a room and not anticipate something. You forget what it feels like to speak without rehearsing. You forget to love without guarding, to rest without guilt, to be alone without spiraling, to receive a message without tension, to hear silence and not immediately fill it with fear. And this is the part I need you to really hear. Just because this is common does not mean this is healthy. Just because many people are living tightly wound does not mean it is natural. Just because this generation has normalized anxiety, burnout, emotional guardedness, overthinking, and constant stimulation, well, it does not mean how your life is meant to feel. You are not meant to live like impact is always coming. You are not meant to be in subtle defense every moment. You are not meant to carry your body like a clenched fist. You are not meant to experience every silence as suspicious, every delay as threatening, every pause as a problem, every uncertainty as danger. And maybe nobody told you this clearly enough. You are allowed to stop bracing. You are allowed to loosen your shoulders, to breathe without preparing, to sit with someone and not scan them for shifts. You are allowed to rest without proving you earned it. You are allowed to have a day where nothing is wrong and actually let that be true. You are allowed to come out of internal combat because maybe the state once protected you. Maybe it helped you survive confusion, instability, criticism, neglect, pressure, disappointment, emotional unpredictability. Maybe it was intelligent once. But what protected you once can become what imprisons you now. And that is why awareness matters. Because healing does not begin when you suddenly become calm. It begins when you start telling the truth. The truth that you are tired of being on guard. The truth that your mind does not know how to rest. The truth that your body is carrying more defense than peace. And the truth that you may have confused survival with strength for a very long time. So start there. Start by noticing. Notice how often you brace, how often you anticipate pain, how often you prepare for disappointment before it arrives, how often you call vigilance your personality, how often you live from the heaviness or overdrive, and how rarely you truly touch your internal clarity. Because the first step is not fixing yourself. The first step is becoming aware that you have been living as though life is always about to hurt you. And maybe, slowly, gently, honestly, you can begin to remember that life is not only something to defend yourself from, it is also something you are meant to feel safe enough to live.